Mhm. So we were speaking at length yesterday in great detail about the different levels of tzaddikim, beinonim, rishoyim, and I hope, established the idea clearly in everybody's mind that in tzaddikim there are basically two levels. There's the tzaddikim who are complete tzaddikim, very few and far between, but at least in every generation there'll be one or a few. And the rest of the tzaddikim who didn't yet get to that level of being called complete tzaddikim. And what makes, excuse me, what makes them tzaddikim as opposed to beinonim? And the answer is that any negative thing in their character, which we'll identify as under the influence of the Yetzer Hara, anything under negative in their character becomes converted into good. So there's no more active ingredient on the negative side in their character. And anything that might be left over is totally nullified. Like, to use an example, if you have a huge cholent, like for the whole 770, big kiddush in 770, and Rabbi Kratz makes a huge cholent for everybody, and one drop of milk falls into that cholent. We're not going to say the whole cholent is inedible, milk and meat. We're going to take a big spoon and just stir it in, and it will be totally nullified in a huge majority. That's hopefully, it's just, while it's still soup, it doesn't fall on a piece of meat. If it falls on a piece of meat, then it's a little more serious, because then the whole piece of meat becomes something forbidden, and we need a huge percentage against the whole piece of meat, not just against the drop. Or another example is, if I went down to Coney Island, where the ocean is the Atlantic Ocean, and I had one drop of grape juice, which is a strong purple color, and I dropped one drop into the ocean, it wouldn't be in the Coney Island news the next day that the ocean turned color. It would be totally insignificant. So to that extent, that the negativity in the character of the tzaddik is really insignificant. But insofar as it is still there, although insignificant, we can't say that he's a complete tzaddik. There's still that eensy-weensy bit left over that he didn't complete it yet. It's like a person climbs Mount Everest and he's a few feet from the summit, but he didn't get to the summit yet. You can't say he climbed Mount Everest. He's got a little bit extra still to do, but it's very hard for him to move. It's very hard to get those few extra feet. And it could be that there's huge storms up there. You've all seen the documentaries about what it's like to climb that mountain. Okay, so that is the tzaddik who is complete as compared to the tzaddik who is incomplete. What makes him a tzaddik? What's the key character in feature in his character? Bottom of page 153 is he despises anything, any kind of pleasure from this physical world. He takes no pleasure in the physical world. It's said about Rabbi Yehuda Hanossi, the prince, Rabbi Yehuda, king, descendant of King David, the leader of the Jews in his time, who recorded for us the Mishnah at a time of great Roman persecution, when Torah scholars were being crucified and killed so that there would be no more Jewish learning, just like they did in Russia, very successfully. During 70 years, they made it impossible for children to learn about Judaism, with the result that nowadays, by and large, Russian Jewry are ignorant of Judaism. After 3 generations of no education, the children of the 4th generation don't remember their grandparents anymore, their great grandparents. So that was the policy of the Romans. Leave the door open just a little bit, or even a lot, so people won't be shy to enter. So the Rebbe Yehuda, the oral, since Mount Sinai until the time of the Roman persecutions, the oral law was never written down. It was forbidden. That's why it was the oral law. It was only accessible to Jewish people who learned from their teachers. The non-Jewish peoples had no access to it. And there was a reason why they were not allowed access to it, because since they would corrupt it. They would try to use it against the Jewish people. They would misinterpret and spread false teachings and so on. So they weren't allowed even to come near it. Rabbi Yehuda, realizing the tremendous danger of Jewish people totally forgetting their connection to Torah, because they don't have, without the oral Torah, we don't know what you're supposed to do. Come sit closer, please. Don't sit so far away in Alaska.
Well, okay.
It's brighter there.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the circulation of the window.
You want to be near the window?
So that
Okay, be near the window. Okay. He reviewed by heart. There were many different versions of the Mishnah according to different teachers. For instance, Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai were great teachers in their generation. They lived in the same generation. And they taught diametrically opposed ideas of what a Jewish person is supposed to do. And they both had the same teacher. But they understood his teachings differently because of the inclination of their neshama. Like Beis Hillel emphasized the actual state of affairs, the way things actually were, and Beis Shammai always emphasized the potential, the way things could be. Until eventually, it says that the students of Hillel did like Hillel taught, and the students of Shammai did like Shammai taught. But then the sages were very concerned that there'd be a division in Judaism, which is, division is not good. So there's a rule in the Torah, majority rules, and they took a vote, and the majority sided with Beis Hillel. So the halacha became like Beis Hillel. So we still teach the ideas of Beis Hillel, but we don't follow them. We don't do them. I mean, of Beis Shammai. We still teach the ideas of Beis Shammai as an idea, but we don't do it. In the future, it says when Moshiach comes, in the end of time, the halacha will be like Beis Shammai because it's a higher level. And then this was ratified when a voice came out from heaven and said, Hillel and Shammai are both teaching the words of the living God. But the halacha, what we have to do is according to Beis Hillel. So it was ratified according to the majority on earth, and was ratified according to a decision in heaven. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi reviewed, so we could have many, many different traditions of what the Mishnah, what the oral law really is. Each one coming from teacher to student, teacher to student, teacher to student, from Mount Sinai without interruption. Without interruption, that is amazing. There were hundreds, more, several hundred versions. I mean, there were 600,000 men at Mount Sinai. So it's only normal there should be a few variations. So the Tanya starts off with a Mishnah and starts off with a variation. The variations were not accepted as authoritative as part of the Mishnah, but they were very informative, and we learned them. And the Tanya starts off with one of them, are called Brisas. Now, what's the mission of Brisa? We never really discussed this on the first page. We usually discuss it on the first page of the Tanya, is Rabbi Yehuda reviewed all the different versions by heart. He knew them all by heart.
Wow.
He reviewed all of them and then decided which one was the most all-inclusive, which one contained all the ideas. Some versions contained very particular ideas, but not all of them. Others contained all of them, but not all the details. So he chose the one that had most of all of the ideas and all the idea, everything, and that became the authoritative version that we call Mishnah. And then the other ones that didn't get selected for the Mishnah are called Baraisa. Baraisa. In Aramaic means the ones that left out. So Rabbi Yehuda reviewed all of these different versions of the Torah. And he set forward the Mishnah. So this is just to tell you who Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi was, a descendant of King David. Now it's said about him that he took no pleasure whatsoever in the pleasures of this physical world. His whole pleasure and delight was God. And his mission in life was leading the Jewish people. And to this he was devoted day and night. It says, a little finger's worth of pleasure he didn't take from this whole physical world. So this tells us, why did I tell you this whole story? So you'll understand what it says here, that the tzaddik takes no pleasure in physical world, because, bottom of page 153, this is where we're up to, because these pleasures that the world has to offer, like having a cabana in Miami Beach and having a home in the Catskills and a beautiful house on President Street and a table full of delights and physical delicious foods and dainties and a house full of guests and beautiful children. He took the tzaddik takes no delight in all these things. So Rabbi Yehuda, who had vast amounts of money, he was very, very rich, but he didn't use any of that money for his own physical pleasure. He used it only for the needs of the Jewish people and helping those who were in need.
Did he have kids?
Yes, of course. Okay, so they
Wait, Rabbi, I have a question.
Okay. Who has a question?
So,
Yaira?
Yaira on the Zoom. Yeah. Hi. I thought that in order to keep Shabbos properly, you have to have the physical and the Gashmias and the Ruchnias together. Like they have
Correct.
to go together
Correct.
and complement each other. So
Correct.
does that go to say he did enjoy the physical when it was able to be elevated as spiritual? Because otherwise I'm confused how a tzaddik didn't celebrate Shabbos with fancy food and nice clothes and things like that.
Right. He didn't lust after it. In Hillel, for instance, it's quoted in the Tanya, and the Hillel used to say, they would say to him, Master, they would say, you didn't eat yet today. He would sigh, okay, I guess we have to have Rahman, we have to have mercy on the poor creature. So he would go and eat because he had to. But he didn't dive into the pastry, into the mezainis and I used to have a student every morning in class, she would eat a yogurt with a banana in it. And that way, he eats what he has to. It says about, I think about, was the Rebbe's father was visiting somebody one time, or maybe an uncle. And they reported on them that whatever they gave him to eat, he never finished the plate, and he never went back for seconds. On Shabbos, yes,
Doesn't it say somewhere in the
to take
Gemara?
pleasure. It's a mitzvah to take pleasure. So they take pleasure in the food because it's a mitzvah, not because of the food. Can you understand that?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to be like that. I'm just saying that that's the American phrase. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yeah. It's a very high level. But we know, since we know about it, we can aspire towards it. I know families that they educate their children to leave over a little bit of something that they like. When my wife would encourage our children to finish their plate, they would say, well, we're leaving this for the Yetzer Hara. She said, yeah, you have to leave from the Yetzer Hara something that you like, not something that you don't want to eat.
That's more.
I remember one time, there's a real joke. Oh, poor Neshama came to learn Torah. So,
How the bird baby
through the window.
But I think it's closed now. There's a window.
Anyway,
It's broken. Okay.
I believe I told you the story one time on the 5th day of Av, 1975. A young man told me he had Yechidus with the Rebbe that year in Tishrei, and he told the Rebbe that he had moved to Israel. He was a dental assistant, like he made the things for the dentist in the back room. And he had set up a studio in Kfar Chabad to take up his life there. He had Yechidus there. He told the Rebbe in Yechidus he was fasting on Monday and Thursday every week. He would fast. And the Rebbe was very strict with him. He said, don't you know the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, we don't fast. We only fast when the community fasts. We fast together with them, like we're going to do before Purim or Yom Kippur. Because fasting leads to arrogance, and fasting makes it impossible for you to learn Torah properly because you're hungry. So you're transgressing the mitzvah of not learning Torah with all your strength. He says, so the guy was very upset that he'd done something foolish, and he was embarrassed in front of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe understood, and he smiled. He said, but if you want to continue in this approach to your life, so I would advise you, whenever you eat, you have a plate of food in front of you, choose one thing that you really like and leave over one spoonful. And he turned to me and he said, it's easier to fast all day. It's easier to fast all day than in the middle of the meal to leave over one spoonful of something that you like. But that's how you control your appetite, so that you're serving Hashem and not your stomach. So this is what it says here about the tzaddik. Tzaddikim don't want to receive delight from physical things. Why? Because the source of their life is from klippah and not from holiness. And we learned in chapter 7 that there are different levels in klippah. There are impure levels in klippah, and then there's the 4th level of klippah, which is neutral and can be used in holiness. And when we use it to do a mitzvah, we elevate it into the realms of holiness, of kedusha. But since something is from klippah, tzaddikim don't want to have anything to do with it, unless they're using it for holiness. So if they have a holy reason, like the doctor says you have to exercise. Some people love to exercise because they want to be strong and they want to be handsome and they want to be fit. That's klippah. Some people exercise because the doctor says, if you don't exercise, you're not going to survive. So then it becomes an obligation. It's not something they take pleasure from. It's something that they have to do in order to serve Hashem. So it's a completely different ballgame. So just to enjoy pleasure because you enjoy it, just to enjoy the food because you like it, that's klippa. The tzaddik doesn't want it. And that's the difference between a tzaddik and anybody else. So then the tzaddik who's complete tzaddik, he has no use for it. No use for it. We see our eyes, the Rebbe hardly ate. He hardly ate. And yet he had tremendous energy, unbelievable energy. I tried, when I was new here, I tried to keep up with the Rebbe's pace. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I felt like I was being ground into the earth. It was impossible. Yeah, Rebbe works very, very hard. And he would come and teach for hours and hours and hours. What would he? He'd have half a cup of wine and a piece of cake, and then he would teach for 2, 3, 4 hours without notes, everything by heart, bringing quotations from the whole Talmud all over. And then he would conclude, he'd had another little piece of cake and finish up the cup of wine, and that was it. And he'd go out. Great strength and energy. So the tzaddik, complete tzaddik, uses out every bit of physical, his involvement in the physical world, he uses out for Hashem. Like they say, all for the boss. Everything is for the sake of Hashem. Like it says in the ethics of the fathers, all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven. And we saw that by the Rebbe. That's how he lived, how he lives. And the tzaddik who is not a complete tzaddik, so not 1,000,000% of everything he does is for the sake of heaven. There's still some little teensy-weensy bit that you can't say has been converted to be totally good. So therefore he's a tzaddik, he's not complete. And these are the two levels of tzaddikim. Now, we're going to go on to discuss a little bit more what is the tzaddik sheina gomer in more detail. Okay, you ready? Fasten your seatbelts. We said that the tzaddik,
Which page, please?
154, 155, the tzaddik gomer, again, a little bit of a review. The tzaddik gomer, the complete tzaddik, he hates anything from klippa, anything that's not directed to the service of Hashem, he hates it. And he says, I hate it with a total hatred. Search, I'm telling you, Hashem, you look into my heart and you'll see I'm not telling you any lie. Who says this? David HaMelech says it. King David says this. So to the extent that he loves Hashem with an overwhelming love, that's what we learned about in the end of the last chapter, end of chapter 9. To that extent that he has this overwhelming love, great, great love of Hashem, to that in direct proportion, he hates anything that's not directed towards Hashem, that isn't for the sake of Hashem. He finds it loathsome. Okay, that's what we're up to yesterday. Top of page 155, his loathing of physical pleasure is to the same extent and opposite as his love of Hashem. Continuing, in the middle of the page. So who is this tzaddik sheina gomer? Now we're going to talk about the tzaddik who is not complete. The tzaddik sheina gomer, the tzaddik who is not complete, who she'eina soina asitra achra b'tachlis hasina. Why is he incomplete? Because his hatred of negativity is not total. It's not a total hatred. I use the word negativity, which means what we call by the other side, the Yetzer Hara, the animal soul, the wise guy, different names. And therefore, since he doesn't hate the other side, the selfish side. With a total hatred, and therefore he doesn't loathe it at the same time. There are two factors here, hatred and loathing. I hate it, but loathing means like I have a physical reaction against it. Famous story of a beautiful woman came to Rabbi Akiva dressed improperly. And she came in order to embarrass him. She had a wicked intention. She was spurred on by her husband, who was like a commander of the Roman forces in the Holy Land at that time. And they wanted to embarrass Rabbi Akiva so that he wouldn't have any power to resist them. And what did he burst into tears? He just started crying. It seemed such a pity to him that there was this object of great beauty being used for evil. Or similarly, similar story happened to the Tzemach Tzedek, where a non-Jewish cleric tried to embarrass him and sent his wife. By the Greek Orthodox, the priests can have wives. And he sent his wife, the Tzemach Tzedek, in a compromising manner, and he vomited. So the hatred is I hate it, but I loathe it. It makes me literally, like we say in English, it makes me sick. It made him sick. So to the extent that he doesn't completely hate the Klippa, to that same extent, he doesn't hate. It doesn't make him sick. He can tolerate it. And tolerating it in thought, speech, or deed is more only a potential, because he never thinks anything bad, does anything bad, says anything bad. But these are called filthy garments. We learned that in the last chapter. The garments of the soul are thought, speech, and deed. And they're tainted. They're stained. The tzaddik takes these tainted, stained garments. He makes them clean, totally clean and bright and good. The tzaddik who is not complete has not made all his filthy garments into clean, beautiful garments. It's like an equation. He says the filthy garments in which the animal soul has been clothed until now, meaning the evil inclination or desiring physical pleasures from the world, they have not been completely removed from his character. Page 156. And therefore, since he didn't remove them from his character, he didn't make them positively good. Why? So what's the situation? He still has an inclination towards them, sort of like a Baal Tshuva, yeah, who was very involved in all kinds of things. Imagine, rock music or certain physical kinds of pleasures and so on. And when he gets together with his friends, they reminisce a bit, and they enjoy the reminiscence. And they laugh about it, and then they realize that they try and extricate themselves from it. Or, like David Lazarson, he uses his music to turn on teenage kids. He uses it in a positive way. But if he did it just because he likes it, then it would be totally negative. You have a student who works very hard in his learning, and he builds up a lot of nervous energy because he learns so intensely. So I know a boy who did this. He got a set of drums, and when nobody's around, alone in his room, he hammers away at the drums. He really beats the drums, not just because he likes it. This is how he gets rid of all this nervous energy so he can continue learning properly. Okay, so he still has the tzaddik sheni gomer, he still has this negativity in him, but he didn't convert it to good. However, it's not significant. It's like I said, this one drop of grape juice in the Atlantic Ocean. Or it's like someone who was convicted in court and sent to a desert island and put into a prison and chained up and left there. I believe it's in Chile, in South America. There was a Jewish girl here from New York who got involved. She got a boyfriend who was a terrorist fighting against the government, and she got arrested, and she was sent to this prison on the top of a mountain where it's freezing, there's no heating, and there's no windows, and it's freezing cold, and it's called a life sentence because nobody comes back. It was real pity. She was, a nice Jewish girl. She had ideals. Her heart cared about the people, the masses, the suffering masses, whatever. Anyway, Lori was her name, Lori something or other. A lot of people were trying to help her. Her parents could visit her maybe once every couple of years. She was bundled up and trying to stay alive. I don't know if she ever got out or not. But that's a comparison to what the tzaddik She'ena Gomer does to the negativity in his character. He sends it to the top of the mountain with no food and no people to visit him. He's out of the picture. So therefore, he says here that the animal soul does not get converted to good because sheyesh eza achiza adayin. He still has a kind of a hankering for those times that he remembers when his animal soul had a good time, and he sort of enjoys it all over again a little bit. Elishu bottle, but really it's he shuts it down. Get back in the box, like the puppet. Mr. You ever saw Senor Wenches? The ventriloquist, he had a puppet in a box. It's okay, all right, sorry. Back in the box. He keeps it all back in the box. Elishu bottle b'miyute, and it's so minuscule that it has no effect. Ukalei chashiv, it's as if it's not even there. V'loche nikre tzaddik v'ra, so therefore he's called the tzaddik who has bad, because there still is this vestige, this tiny remnant of evil in the recesses of his soul. Kafafu bottle, but it's totally out of the picture. It's bottled, it's ineffective, completely ineffective. It has no say, no influence. And therefore, the consequence is that his love of Hashem also is obstructed, it's hindered, because there's still this little vestige there of bad, of darkness that has not been turned into light. So his love of God is also not complete. So he's the incomplete tzaddik because there's still this little bit of darkness left in the recesses of his soul, and his love of Hashem is not complete because he can't express it 100%. Because that's that little 0.0005 of 1% that's left that he didn't fix it up yet. Well, this is very high and lofty stuff. This is for big tzaddikim. So therefore he's a tzaddik who's the incomplete tzaddik because his love of Hashem is incomplete. We're going to stop here now. We stop.